Star Wars Rebels is 10 years old. Today, actually yesterday, marked the 10th anniversary of Star Wars Rebels, the animated series that first aired in 2014, captivating fans with its unique storytelling and expansion of the Star Wars universe. Set between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, Rebels followed a group of freedom fighters aboard the Ghost as they rise against the Galactic Empire. Created by Dave Filoni, the series introduced new beloved characters such as a Jedi in training Ezra Bridger, exiled Jedi Kanan Jarrus, and fan favorite Mandalorian warrior Sabine Wren. It also brought back familiar faces like Ahsoka Tano, Darth Vader, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Captain Rex, whose returns to Star Wars canon thrilled many longtime fans. Rebels received critical acclaim for its character development, deep exploration of the Force, and emotional story arcs that resonated with viewers of all ages. It also set the stage for future Star Wars content, with many characters and storylines continuing in The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and other live-action Star Wars. As fans celebrate the legacy of Rebels, its impact on the Star Wars galaxy is undeniable, and it has been a key chapter in bringing new Star Wars fans to the saga. Nick, you and I talk about this all the time. Rebels is not just a fan favorite, it's one of our favorites. The thing that I always recall about Rebels is I remember seeing this was before Disney Plus. I remember seeing the first images and I was like, oh man, it's just some goofy kid with he had a slingshot, a laser slingshot. And my thoughts honestly were this is not going to be for me. And by the time the second episode ended, Star Wars changed. And the thing that I remember, and I'd love your thoughts on this, watching those first two episodes, and so, like, I don't do big series rewatches. I haven't watched it from beginning to end. I've watched, arcs and segments. But the thing that I have watched multiple times are those first two episodes because it feels like a Star Wars movie. The pacing, the action, the humor, it was all captured in this brand new series.
I am famously on record for saying, and the only thing that comes close to this, if it was an ATG Live drinking game, other than talking about West Wing, there it is, Matt. That one's for you.
There you go.
Other than talking about West Wing, is Star Wars Rebels wasn't for me. I wasn't the target demo. I wasn't the age group. I came to it late. Like, it had already been on. It was on Disney XD, I think it was.
Yep, I think you're right.
It was
like at 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, it was
and
late.
I wasn't the stage of my life where, like, ooh, I'm going to watch a Star Wars cartoon, as it were.
Right.
But when I found it and I watched it, I was transformed. It changed. It didn't change my life. Let's not get crazy. But it was so good, and I was hooked so quickly that it is literally, and remains to this day, along with The Last Jedi, my favorite Disney Star Wars thing that has happened. I love that show. I think I talk about it a lot. I rewatch it pretty regularly. As a collector, talking about Lego, talking about, the helmets, I've got a couple of them behind me.
Yep.
People have lightsaber hilts, and the people that have them all across their wall and all the different things, like, that's fantastic. I said from the time it happened in the show, there was only one lightsaber hilt that I wanted to have. And it was Kanan Jarrus. It was this one right here.
Nice.
And the amount of time it took for them to put it out through Disney to be at Galaxy's Edge. Shout out to Brian and Holly Fry, who were able to source it for me, send it to me. I love Star Wars Rebels. I love that it's been around for 10 years. It still gets the love. And we still get to see. I mean, we've seen stuff about how, that little tease of Zeb that we got with our friend Carson Teva.
Yes.
In Mandalorian, Zeb's going to show back up in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, is what we've heard.
Yep.
It's such a great show. And honestly, and I think you were the first one that kind of said this in a way that I hadn't thought about. It's such a great lore story. And it's one of the cornerstones of Dave Filoni doing something that the title isn't really what it's about. It is Rebels. Yep. They are being rebellious. But there is such a great Jedi story in there with Kanan. To go back and read New Dawn, the Kanan and Hera, the very first canon Star Wars book.
Yep.
Like, tie all those bits together. It's just great. There's going to be a podcast of the Wills at some point where I deep dive just on Rebels. But I love it. And I'm so glad that that's one of our news stories this week to celebrate 10 years of that show.
Yeah. It's, and you're right. I say all the time that Empire Strikes Back is the most important Star Wars movie, because without Empire Strikes Back, you don't get the expansion of the lore, right? You don't get you get your first look at some of the details that became bigger stories, that became the prequels, that became um, all this other stuff. Um, I think Rebels, in some cases, is very similar to that, in that it set up so many other types of characters, and the fact that Ahsoka was built on the back of Rebels tells you how important it was. The fact that it's the first real sort of animated to live action show, because
Yes.
we all kind of know that. So if you watched Rebels, you know that Ahsoka is the final season, or the the final chapter of the Rebels story.
Third and fourth season. Well, and I want to pull up this comment from KG. She said, I feel that I don't typically like animation nowhere near as much as live action. And that's key. And we've talked about, with Bad Batch, the last season of Clone Wars, like the beauty of animation really is cool. They've done so much with it. The thing that I love so much and keyed in on also early on in Rebels is, and you can see the prints over my shoulder right here.
Yeah,
a lot of Rebels was built directly on Ralph McQuarrie concept art. You get those tall, long, lean stormtroopers. You get those designs in those buildings. You get like the pencil lines with the colored shading behind it. Like it was different than what the Clone Wars series had been. And it brought just another visual, aspect to something that, again, we just love.
Which, by the way, a lot of people forget. Clone Wars launched 16 years ago yesterday.
Yep.
It was exactly what was it, 2008. It came out on October 3rd as well.
Yep.
So
lots of good anniversaries.